Melvin, Kevon, and Keith, collectively known as the R&B group After 7, never gave up on their dream to make a name for themselves in the music industry. They took a major leap of faith leaving their secure day jobs, and thankfully, the risk paid off tenfold. But just when they started to really enjoy their success, things went left. Ultimately, they were forced to make the painful decision to walk away from it all. Marvin Edmonds Sr. and Barbara Edmonds of Indianapolis, Indiana, definitely had their hands full with their 6 sons: Marvin Jr., Melvin, Michael, Kevon, Kenneth, and Derek. While their mother worked as a teacher and lab technician, and their father made a living managing a taxi service, music was always at the core of their family life. They all enjoyed a wide variety of genres and artists, but the boys especially tended to gravitate to many of the male vocal groups, including the OJs, the Stylistics, and the Spinners. In high school, Melvin found himself as the lead vocalist in a band singing pop and soul tunes. It was also around this time that the boys' father passed away unexpectedly. The moment changed their family dynamic completely, as their mother now had to work harder than ever before to raise her half-dozen children on her own, and the boys were forced to grow up fast. Melvin would be the first to marry in his late teens and secured steady 9-to-5 work for himself at a car factory. All the while, though, he would still make time for music. A few years later, Kevon would enroll at Indiana University. It was there where he would meet future group mate Keith Mitchell, while in a course on performing and the music business. While in the course, they performed together in a 5-part male vocal group. The two took the act home on summer vacations, along with Kevon's brother Melvin, and performed around the greater Indianapolis area. The Edmonds brothers and Keith had a great deal in common. He was also a native of Indianapolis and grew up in a large, musically inclined family. For years, though, singing continued to remain just a side gig, while they all maintained regular day jobs to pay the bills. Melvin at the car factory, Kevon at a pharmaceutical company, and Keith as a financial planner and investment advisor. Even though they were all very responsible and focused on priorities, they knew that music was what they were truly called to do. So, in 1987, they officially took their first step on the journey, which was to enlist the help of family. At this time, younger brother Kenneth, who would now be better known as Babyface, had moved to Los Angeles years prior and created a burgeoning career for himself as a singer with the R&B band The Deal, as well as producing and songwriting for other acts such as Climax, Paula Abdul, and Bobby Brown, in collaboration with L.A. Reid and Daryl Simmons. In After 7's Unsung episode, Babyface admits that he advised his brothers not to quit their jobs to pursue a career in entertainment because he felt it wasn't worth the risk. Crazy enough, the next thing he heard was that Melvin had gotten laid off. Kevon was still going strong in his job, 10 years strong, but he hated it. Babyface later caved and brought his brothers over to the Golden State and got them hooked up with a record deal with Virgin Records. Yup, just like that. Sight unseen, no audition necessary. Which probably worked in their favor since, at the time, all 3 members were full-grown men in their 30s. What's wrong with that, you may wonder? Well, nothing in regular everyday life, but in the music world, youth reigns supreme, and anyone over the age of 30 oftentimes gets categorized as old and washed up. The trio took full advantage of getting away with no one knowing their true ages and the fact that since black don't crack, they could pass for being younger. Babyface is also responsible for giving them their name. He claims he got the idea from an old answering machine he'd had that instructed the caller that after 7 seconds, they would hear a beep and then they could record a message. After 7 released their self-titled debut album in August 1989. It was mostly written and produced by Babyface and L.A. Reid. Their debut single and first track released off the project, Heat of the Moment, became an instant hit. It climbed all the way to number 5 on the R&B chart and obtained a top 20 placement on the Hot 100. The project as a whole was an immediate success, going platinum, and produced 2 other hit singles, Ready or Not and Can't Stop. Both tracks hit the top spot on the R&B chart and secured top 10 positions at number 7 and number 6 respectively on the pop chart. Can't Stop was also nominated for a Grammy in the category of Best R&B Performance by a Duo or Group. After a lot of chart success, going on tour typically becomes the next step for many recording artists. And After 7 was no different. In the summer of 1990, they embarked on a nationwide journey with MC Hammer, Michelet, and Troop. As great as things were going, a personal issue of Melvin's was starting to negatively affect the entire group. He started being late or not showing up at all. He wouldn't call, and when people tried to get a hold of him, he wouldn't answer. Melvin was using drugs, marijuana and cocaine specifically, and it was getting out of control. Kevon and Keith admit that they never had any hardcore evidence to prove what he was doing, since Melvin always took off by himself and didn't engage in any of that activity in their presence. One major example of Melvin's problem becoming everyone else's manifested in the group missing out on getting to record a song, an eventual hit, written by Babyface called My My My. Initially, After 7 were set to record the track, but the day it was supposed to get done, Melvin was nowhere to be found. Johnny Gill just happened to come into the studio that day, and Babyface decided to ask him to record it instead. Moving on, After 7 released another top 10 R&B hit in 1991 called Nights Like This for the Five Heartbeats movie soundtrack. They also got the amazing opportunity to take to the road again as Whitney Houston's opening act on the US leg of her I'm Your Baby Tonight world tour. The group's second album, Takin' My Time, would be released in August 1992. This project didn't get the Babyface and LA production touch like their first effort, since they were just too busy with developing other artists, like Toni Braxton and TLC. The duo did contribute as writers, though. 3 singles were released from the album, of which the first 2, Kickin' It, and a medley of the original song Baby I'm For Real and Bloodstone's Natural High, placed in the top 10 on the R&B chart. The results the album produced did qualify it to be considered a hit project. However, the numbers weren't on the same level as their debut. While some may say that the fact that the missing Babyface and LA factor was the reason, the group felt that their label was to blame for dropping the ball. No matter what the feelings were between After 7 and Virgin, the group forged ahead and released another project for them 3 years later. Reflections, dropped in July 1995, reunited the trio with their tried-and-true production duo, Babyface and L.A. Reid. This project is the first album where the members of the group have credits as songwriters as well as executive producers. A total of 4 singles were released, but only one became a hit that made it into the top 5 on the R&B chart, called Till You Do Me Right. After 7 chose to heed the writing that had been on the wall for some time and cut ties with Virgin. As the only non-Edmonds brother in the group, Keith was asked years later how he felt about being the odd man out. He told rnbhaven.com, "Well, I mean, it had its ups and downs, because I was kinda like the cream between 2 chocolate cookies, like an Oreo cookie. You kinda in, but you're not, you know what I'm saying? I played my role. I welcomed the opportunity to work with both of them, and they're both great vocalists. But the challenges, I would say, were the fact that I had been a member of the group in college and got to lead songs. And then, coming into the group, I was not given that opportunity more than once or twice to lead a phrase in a song. My role in the group was what it was." While the group officially disbanded in 1997, 2/3 of them, Kevon and Melvin, came together that same year with their brother Babyface, plus another set of brothers, Casey and JoJo from Jodeci, to form the fictional quintet Milestone for the comedy drama film Soul Food. The group provided one song for the soundtrack called I Care About You. The group may have been fake, but they managed to pull off a very real hit. The song made it all the way to number 10 on the R&B chart. Life then carried on with everyone moving in different directions. Some people fared better than others. Melvin went back to working a regular job by obtaining a trucking license. Keith opened a restaurant for a time and then returned to the music business as a manager. After that, he started his own construction company. He also experienced a bout of homelessness for several months. Kevon never left music and released his debut solo album, titled 24/7, in October 1999. He invited his nephew Jason, Melvin's son, to do some backing vocals on the project, and that experience turned into him going on tour with his uncle as a background singer for years. By the late 2000s, After 7 was back and resumed touring with Kevon, Keith, and Jason taking the place of his father. The group, however, decided not to record again without the participation of Melvin. Melvin had been battling health issues for some time and even had a stroke in 2011. At first, it appeared that having him join the others wasn't ever going to be possible, but it happened. After 7, the quartet version released their first album in over 20 years, titled Timeless, in 2016. Sadly, Melvin would pass away 3 years later on May 18, 2019. He was 65 years old. Keith posted the following statement on the group's Facebook page. "Melvin was, without a doubt, the soul of After 7. His ability to signaturize a vocal melody in rhythm and blues music produced a vocal sound that can never be erased or duplicated. Melvin's love for audiences and fans everywhere who supported our music is what drove him on stage and in life. He is and will be missed by my family, fans, and friends. Melvin is survived by his 4 children, including Jason, who would officially leave after 7 a couple of months after his father's death. The group then brought in Danny McClain, who remains as the 3rd member to this day. After 7 released their 5th and last album to date, appropriately titled Unfinished Business, in August 2021.